I realized more value of expanding my horizons, joining things like employee resource groups or getting on nonprofit boards and doing those kinds of things. And they helped me evolve as a human being and they helped me evolve as a business person. And that just makes you better.
All right, Next Gen fam, welcome back to Mentor Momentum with Next Gen HQ. We're in for an absolute treat this week. I am beyond excited to welcome this week's blockbuster of a guest. She is an absolute marketing legend. Today, I'm joined by Andrea Brimmer as the Chief Marketing PR Officer at Ally Bank. She continues to innovate within the industry, being named Forbes' list of 50 most influential CMOs, not once, but twice. And we have so much to dive into, from marketing to brand, and even into what makes Andrea the leader she is. So I can't wait to get into it. I got to shut up. We got to welcome the true star of the show today. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us on Mentor.
Andrea, what a kind introduction. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to start taking you everywhere I go. I loved it.
That was the goal. I'm just I'm getting my way into the world I want to be in. But no, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, and I'm so excited to dive into kind of your career, your journey, your lessons, and especially talk some marketing. So I want to start way back at the beginning. Kind of 20-year-old Andrea coming out of school, what you were thinking about, and maybe some advice that you would give to that version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 20-year-old version of me was full of piss and vinegar, right? I came out of 4 years at Michigan State. I played varsity soccer up there on the first ever varsity women's team, and certainly thought that I was going to light the world on fire. And what advice that I would give to myself now is I wish I had had more patience and just enjoyed the ride. You put so much pressure on yourself to go fast and do well and make a lot of money and get to the next level. And at some point, as you become older, you realize a lot of that stuff isn't important. And the people you meet, the experiences that you gather, the living in the moment, that's what's really important. And that would have been my advice to myself. Be patient, enjoy the ride, and just soak it all up, because you only go through it one time.
Yeah. Is there a moment in your life, or a moment when you realize that more fully? I think of our audience. You have next generation entrepreneurs who obviously are all about the hustle, and they're probably working more than they should, and maybe not enjoying the ride as much. But I don't know if there was a moment or a story or a lesson where you were like, oh my gosh, wow, I really do need to be able to learn how to do both, hustle and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, not to be too much of a downer, but 8 years ago, my brother passed away at a really young age. And that was really a wake up moment for me, because I had been so heads down, so career focused, so move, got to get to the next level. And it was like it was like a personal moment of, geez, like I didn't spend as much time with him as I wish I had, even when he was sick. And you don't think life's going to take that weird twist and that turn. And that's the moment that we all realize our own human fragility. And I kind of said to myself, like, when I die, what's going to be on my headstone? It's not going to be Andrea Brimmer, Chief Marketing Officer at Ally Financial, right? It's going to be wife, mother, friend, sister, daughter. That's the true definition of you as a human being. And while all the hustle and bustle and entrepreneurship and all that kind of stuff is great, it's ultimately what we do as a human being that matters, and being on the right side of right. So that was a really good life lesson for me. And honestly, Andrew, when I started making more time for my life, I became a better business person. And I realized more value in helping others. And I realized more value in the power of mentorship. And I realized more value of expanding my horizons, joining things like employee resource groups or getting on nonprofit boards and doing those kinds of things. And they helped me evolve as a human being, and they helped me evolve as a business person. And that just makes you better. It makes you so much better at your day job. And so that for me was just like the most transformative time of my life.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so
Of course.
powerful, and something that I need to definitely do more in my life. And I know our audience as well, resonating, I'm sure, deeply with, oh my gosh, wow, maybe I haven't taken that moment for myself today, or, I woke up a little late and just got straight online, which, I always like to ask incredible people like yourself who are leading teams. It's also, a work-life balance, integration, whatever, kind of word you want to say that, allows you to be your best self every day. But I'd love if you could share any habits or maybe if a morning routine that you have that allows you to be your best leader every single day.
Yeah, look, I am always fast to say that I don't think there is any such thing as work-life balance. I just don't. I think you have to make choices. Like you have to make deliberate choices. And I was a single mom of two kids for a long, long time. I just got remarried about 3 years ago. We, expanded the family now. But when the kids were little in particular, I had to make a lot of choices. Some days I chose work. Other days I chose to do something for them or with them. And you just have to get okay with that. Life is really sloppy and you have to get okay with that, and know that you can't make everything neat and perfect. But I would tell you, in terms of like how do I bring my best self, it's a couple of things. One, I'm a huge believer in strong body, strong mind. And so, even at this ripe old age that I'm at now, I'm pretty maniacal about finding time to do something physical. Whether I just got back from 3 weeks in California, I climb mountains every single day. I love to run. I love boot camp. I love to go work out at boot camp and just get a good workout in, or just take the dogs for a walk. I mean, some days the days are so busy, and 8 o'clock at night, I just throw the dogs on a leash and we go out and just like smell the nature. So
Yeah.
that's a biggie for me. And then the other one is, I think you have to have a really active learning agenda. I try and allocate at least a third of my time to just learn things. And so I get up early and I'll, make some coffee and just read a bunch of articles or watch a bunch of TV spots or go and watch a bunch of content that I'm interested in or listen to music, or whatever. I think oftentimes I'll reach out to CMOs of brands that I admire, and they don't know me and I don't know them. And I'm like, how have you done this? I'm really envious of a certain thing that you've done. So I think that learning agenda is really important. And I think that you can never drink your own Kool-Aid. You can never become so full of yourself that you don't think you have things to learn. And I think that's been the kind of the key to my success.
That's so cool. And so I'm sitting here like awestruck to be like, yeah, it all makes so much sense to me. I think, at this age, and especially, as young entrepreneurs, you feel like you're supposed to know everything. And to your point, it only sets you up for failure. You end up, in a place where you're like, you don't want to learn. You end up, not taking that advice of that investor because you're like, oh, they don't know better. I know the best. And yeah, I think allocating that time is such a powerful habit. Plus, clearing your mind with exercise activity. I'm right there with you. Next time we'll do this hiking mountains in California. We'll go live when COVID's done. We'll make that a part two.
I'm in 100%. I actually got an opportunity while I was in California to go to Joshua Tree for the first time. And that was absolutely incredible. And, you just like the spiritual reconnection when you do stuff like that. You couldn't get a cell signal. It was great. I left my phone in the car, was with some good friends, and we just, hiked and climbed a bunch of weird rocks. And you underestimate how those little things can just recharge you.
Absolutely. You're talking to the right person for this, and completely non-interview related. I have been dying to go to Joshua Tree, and you definitely have taken me one step further in reinforcing that that's a place for sure that is worth visiting.
You have to go. It's like got to be on your bucket list. You can't miss it.
Absolutely. I want to dive a little bit into the marketing side for a minute, because obviously you're such an influential individual in the space, and Ally's doing some incredible things. Whether it was the first campaign that you launched, kind of coming on as the CMO, which has been famed to lead you guys to the most brand engagement and awareness to date, which would love to dive into, all the way to this. You guys have a new partnership with Nintendo and really gamifying the marketing and the banking side of things. Can you talk a bit about how you've stepped into the seat of CMO and some of the things that you guys are doing to really change the game for marketing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, when I came into this role, I knew I had a huge challenge for a number of reasons. One, people hate the category of banking, right? Nobody wakes up every morning and says, "Oh my God, I can't wait to like flip through my bank's Insta feed." That's just not anything that comes out of anybody's mouth. Two, people should be really emotional about their money, but they're kind of apathetic, which is odd. They feel like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't control the interest, I don't control the experience, so I'm just going to make it convenient, and I'm not going to worry about anything else. And that's the wrong attitude to have towards your money. And then the third thing for me that was a huge challenge was that we're a digital financial services firm
Yeah.
in a category of that has been around for over 100 years, that people are used to it being one way. And we had to convince people to bank in the palm of their hand. And that was a huge challenge. Like, no, you're not sending your money to Joe's internet bank. It's a real bank, and it's safe and it's sound and it's all those kind of good things. But that was a big challenge, especially at our budget levels, which were much smaller than the rest of the category. It's a $5 billion a year category. We don't spend anywhere near that money. And so we kind of knew that the only way we were going to be successful was to be super brave and super disruptive. And that really led to this strategy of how can we find innovative and engaging ways to get people to interact with their money. And we did a lot of really bold and kind of unheard of things. So one of the things we did was a program called Lucky Penny, where we literally worked with the US Mint. We made ally pennies, and we hid 10 pennies in 10 cities across the country, and we created a scavenger hunt, and each one of those pennies was worth $1,000. And then the grand prize was $100,000. And we taught people about their money along the way. We did something else called the Big Save, and it was a game. It was a virtual reality game, and it was an app that you had to download. But the cool thing about it is that I wanted to take advantage of the Super Bowl momentum, but we couldn't afford to buy a spot in the Super Bowl. So when you downloaded the app and played the game, it only worked during the commercial breaks of the Super Bowl. So you had to hold it up to your TV, and it kind of interrupted everybody else's Super Bowl commercials. And you could win like a ton of money and a bunch of really cool prizes from us if you did it. So, those are the kinds of things that we've done. We turned 6 cities into live Monopoly games last year. We've just done some really interesting things, and it's what's helped us really break through and burst through and get people to care about our brand enough that it's become more of a famous brand than really anyone else in the category.
So unbelievably cool. And we have such an incredible community member submitted question. I think you're on this thread anyway of for next generation entrepreneurs, you guys yourself, as a big institution, or now, a big player in the space, got really scrappy and continue to be scrappy. And obviously entrepreneurs have like zero money and are constantly thinking about how do you look at, and what advice would you give to somebody trying to build their holistic marketing plan as a new organization? And what are the key things that they should be thinking about?
Well, I would say, first of all, go where your audience is. I think too often people set it and forget it in terms of their plans, and you can't. Like, look at last year as a great example of that. When we entered into last year, I never thought we'd be building an island on Animal Crossing, but it's where people were going, right? Everybody was home, everybody was playing video games, and we thought, all right, how do we intersect that? And it's a game about banking, and so let's build an island. So go where your audiences are. Never have that attitude around set it and forget it. Always, you need to always be in a state of perpetual motion with regard to that. Secondly, you've got to find your key differentiator. What is the value proposition? What is it about your product or your brand or your company that you do that nobody else can do? And how can you really exploit that and convince people of that? I mean, for us, it was this maniacal focus on customer obsession. And, we stayed patient and we stayed thirsty and we stayed focused on that. And it's something we've never veered off of. And it's really what has created the hallmark of what our brand is. And then third, I would say you really, really have to be a student of advertising and marketing. It changes on a weekly basis. I mean, it really does. You never know what's coming at you because of the proliferation of new media, new technology, fragmentation of existing media. So you can't just like take one marketing class in college and say, I got it. Be a student of it and think like a human. Like watch how your friends behave with media, watch how they behave with brands and emulate that.
Absolutely. We before this interview got the pleasure of watching your brief interview with Gary Vee, which was definitely too brief. So if he's watching, he's got to get you back on. But I think you summarize everything you just shared in these last 2 points so clearly with him about this thesis of a modern media plan, which you describe as dynamic and disruptive and culturally astute. I was wondering if you could kind of recap that for our audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of dynamic, it's that point I just made, which is this constant state of perpetual motion. You've really just got to be attuned to where the market is going um, and where the audiences are. And you have to be able to carve out enough of your budget to be able to go there. If you get locked in on things, then it doesn't provide you any opportunity to have that visibility in the spaces that you need to. That's one piece that's really important. The disruptive piece is the piece that I was talking about earlier, which is, look, we're bombarded as consumers every single day. I mean, think about how many text messages you get, how many DMs you get, how many brands are in your face constantly. Like you can't even go to the bathroom without, friggin' ads on the back of the stall anymore, right? Like there's no privacy in life. And how do you break through that? And the only way you can break through that is through disruption. And that's so critically important. And that's where those examples that I gave you of like things like Monopoly or Hardest Working Dollar or some of those kinds of things come into play. Like get really creative and do things that people actually want to interact with your brand. The Animal Crossing was a great example. We did a really cool thing with Reddit last year, which was just looking at a simple insight that we have a ton of people on Reddit that are talking about the brand. So how do we get in with the lifestyle of a Redditor and start offering currency and break the Reddit bank? And it was the most successful promotion they did all year long. So that's the disruption piece. And then I think the last piece is that piece about, and I keep using this phrase, but think like a human. You have to really, the whole Animal Crossing idea just came to me candidly because my kids were home for COVID and I just sat and watched them. And when they weren't at school, they were playing video games. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we did a video game? And that's just thinking like a human. Don't think like a marketer. Don't think necessarily like a business owner or an entrepreneur. Just look at what you're doing. Look at what your friends are doing. Look at what the people around you are doing. And how do you intersect culture? The brands that are the most successful are the ones that figure out how to intersect culture in relevant ways. And when I say culture, it doesn't mean going and buying a spot on The Bachelor. It means what is happening thematically in people's lives and how can you be a part of that?
So cool. And you guys keep continuing to just change the game. And it's so like there's such inspiring stories and campaigns that you've run. And one area we always love to cover here is failure, because I'm sure along the way there's been some that haven't worked out. And also for you in your personal life, is there maybe a professional or a personal moment that you witnessed failure and something that you learned from it that our people can avoid that same trap?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all suffer failures all the time. I think the biggest thing with failure is you can't be afraid of it. Early on as a CMO, when I first got into this position, I felt like I led more from a position of fear than a position of strength. I was kind of constantly afraid of, okay, what if I do this wrong and I get fired? And like I said, I was a single mom. I had 2 little kids at home. Nobody else was putting meals on the table. And I was like, I can't screw this job up. And when you free yourself and realize I am going to screw something up and I am going to do a campaign that's going to piss somebody off, or I'm going to do something that doesn't work as well as it's supposed to work. And it's okay. I can pick myself up from that failure and I can move on. It changes your mindset in such a substantive way. And I think the thing that I'm probably the most proud of for me is I've always been brave. I really have been bold in what I've been able to do. And I've been really brave. And I've had a lot of personal failures, obviously I went through a divorce. I was a single mom. I dealt with that. I dedicated too much of my life to work, and I missed a lot of good moments in life that I felt like I should have been present in. And for me, that was the big learning, and turning that around and realizing like I've got to be present in this life. I only have one of them, has made me a better business person. And I think hopefully, your audience can kind of take away that it's okay. I use this term all the time. Life is sloppy. It's okay to be sloppy sometimes.
Yeah, Andrew, this has been such a pleasure. I'm learning so much from you, and I'm really honored that we're getting this opportunity. I love to end, with one question, which I think, everybody listening looks up to you and says, to some point, they want to achieve that level of success that they see you have. And I think it's always interesting to ask, what is your definition of success, and how do you continue to strive for that every single day?
Yeah, Andrew, it's a great question. And I think about this all the time, especially on my early morning runs. I'm like, I never thought I'd be here. I really didn't. You don't set out when you graduate from college and say, I'm going to be the CMO of a Fortune 250 company and doing all these things. You just don't. And I feel so blessed, and I feel so thankful to be in this position. And, I guess I would tell your audience, like, just believe in yourself, bet on yourself, and pick yourself back up. I mean, life gives you a lot of hard knocks, but just pick yourself back up and go back at it. And you really have to have clear vision. You have to have tenacity. But you don't need to be a jerk, and be a good person. And I think that probably the thing that I'm the most proud of is that the turnover rate on my team is less than 1%, and has been for 6 years as my tenure as a CMO. And I think that's because we've created this incredible culture.
Yeah.
And we've given people this amazing opportunity to do the things that they love, and to have permission to fail, and to have permission to take risks, and to know that they will be supported, and to know that we care about them as human beings. I mean, my team has grown exponentially since I've been CMO. I still know every single person's name on my team. I know what they do. I take time. I have a very open door policy. I try and reach out. I try and be good about taking a real interest in the person behind the work. And I think those are the things that just make you a better leader, and will make, your group of entrepreneurs more successful, to remember that it's not all about the dollar. Sometimes it's about the journey. And that's the mark you want to leave on the world.
Absolutely. Andrew, thank you so much for everything. I have takeaways written down, a full page of them over here that I'm going to have to watch this again. But everything from the importance of enjoying the ride. I think the best quote of all time, and you should, trademark this, is that life is sloppy, for sure. I absolutely love that. And then everything you shared with us in the marketing realm, being able to go where your audience is, and treat it like a human engagement, not, the point of view of, hey, I'm an entrepreneur that needs money, so this is what I think is going to generate that, but really seeing it as a human space and a human interaction. This has been an absolute treat. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing so many incredible insights for the next generation.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I wish you guys all the best. I'm envious of your entrepreneurial chops and spirit. I think it's awesome. And you have a really unique opportunity in front of you. The world needs smart, young, entrepreneurial minds more than ever before. So go for it, kick some ass, and I'll be watching you guys.
Love that. Andrea, thank you for joining us here on Mentor Momentum with NextGen HQ.
Thank you, Andrew. Take care.
That was Mentor Momentum, sharing life and business lessons from incredible leaders. Looking for more momentum? Subscribe to our weekly momentum newsletter at nextgenhq.com, and check out our other podcast, Momentum Audio, on any of your favorite podcast channels. Now that's momentum.